What would we see if we could see what we don't see? That's the teaching the mosaic's given me.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. Today I'll be talking with Daniel Bruce Levin, author, poet, businessman, and mystic, a former monk and former business director of Hay House, and the author of perhaps my favorite fable ever, The Mosaic. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about finding peace by rediscovering our connection and learning how to see clearly again. That, plus we'll talk about Thor, Spider-Man, Captain America, and the Fantastic Four. Squeezing lemons, broken bowls, and glue of gold, the gift of prophecy, and what in the world invisible friends have to do with anything. So welcome to the show, Daniel. Are you ready to shine?
I love that introduction. I want to hear the show. Like, can I just sit back and listen?
We will see what unfolds. How about that, the two of us?
Love it.
So then, Daniel, before we dive right into things, how many times have you walked away from everything and walked toward yourself?
I'm going to say that it has been more times than most people would ever imagine, because I've walked away from so many different places. And I first thought that maybe I had a fear of commitment, of finishing something through. But because you've so nicely already introduced the mosaic, I can tell you it's only in writing the mosaic and finishing it and actually listening to what it said to me that I realized the search of the boy in the mosaic called Mo for his parents, who the adults told him were in heaven, was really my search. And so I went to so many different things that looked like they were heaven here on earth. I had an opportunity to run $1 billion company. I walked away from it. I had the opportunity to be the apprentice of the man who started organizational psychology. He said, I want you to do this with me and then take it over. I walked away from it. I had the opportunity to be ordained as a rabbi in Israel, and I walked away from it. I had the opportunity to live in the monastery as a monk, and I did for 10 years, and I walked away from it. And the only reason that I walked away from it, I realized in finishing the mosaic, was that it was none of those things were the heaven I was looking for. And when you find that what you're looking for is not what you're doing, my question to anybody listening is, what do you do? Do you have the courage to walk away from everything that you know about yourself in search of what you seek? Or do you just continue doing what you've always done, hoping that maybe one day you'll find what you're looking for?
Thank you so much, Daniel. When you were walking, and I call this walking toward yourself, a huge distinction. However, ego, as we may call it in the book, the beast. The beast doesn't necessarily, when we are following the call, heeding the call, even though the heartstrings are pulled forward, the beast, for most of us, will still rear its ugly head. So when you left each or any of these experiences, my guess is, at least early on, until the mosaic came to you, and we'll get there, that you still had the beast calling you out, telling you why, what are you thinking, what are you doing, where are you going?
The beast for me in the book is my passion. The beast for me is what happens when I allow myself to run just in the pure passion of living in the moment.
That freedom.
That freedom. But I'm scared to death of that guy. And so what I tried to do is I locked him up and put padlocks and chains and all sorts of things. And I put him in a room with a little door that I would feed him through, but I would never open. But the beast is too powerful to be locked in a little room. And what ends up happening is he ends up breaking out. And when he runs free, it's sort of like the movie Avatar. When you connect the tail to the plug, when the rider connects to their horse, they have an energy between them. But when they're running independent, when they're not connected, they create havoc for each other. And so the process of the beast for me was getting to the place where I was no longer scared of him, but I connected to him.
I don't believe that this was a accident or mistake.
No way.
All of it here to serve us. And we could get into this question of free will. It's a setup. Everything in life is a setup for our highest good and the highest good of all. So why were you set up?
I'm going to answer you as vulnerably as I can, because I believe that's the only place that really matters. Having been at Hay House, I was friends with a lot of the psychics that were there. I brought a lot of them to Hay House. I had a conversation shortly after with a friend of mine by the name of Sonia Choquette. And I was just in so much anguish over the fact that I had this affair. And even more than that, when I told my wife 10 months later, she developed stage 4 breast cancer and went through the most painful death you could ever go through, of 45 minutes on of blood-curdling screaming pain, 45 minutes off. You could time anything to it. It was that exact. 45 minutes of blood-curdling screaming pain, 45 minutes off all day, all night, 24 hours a day for over 2.5 years. And I said to her, Sonia, please give me some insight. My wife passed away. Please give me some insight. And she said something that shook me, that I still just am so happy to hear. She said, instead of you imagining that your wife hates you, she said, can you perceive of the possibility that your wife loved you so much that she made an agreement with you that she would come into this life, that she would go through this pain and suffering, because she knew that on the other side of this, you would become a completely different man than you were then. She said, are you a different man than you were then? I said, God, even a stone would be a different person than they were, right? I said, of course I am. She said, so what would happen if your wife loved you so much that she sacrificed this short moment of time, which seems like eternity here on earth, to give you the gift of becoming the man you are today? Would you still think that she's upset with you? Would you still feel bad about yourself? Would you still know that that's what happens in this world? Would you be willing to do that for another person so that they can become the person they want to be? And I said, for God's sake, that's what I've dedicated my life to, is helping people become the people they are. So for the people that are listening to this, nothing is as it appears, just like I say in the Mosaic. What we see is only what we see. It isn't what is. What would we see if we could see what we don't see? That's the teaching the Mosaic's given me.
How has this become, and is it unfolding into the greatest gift?
Great question. Powerful question. Thank you for asking. I have a story that I love that they tell in Zen.
Yeah.
And you probably have heard it. Probably many of your people listening have heard it, but it's worth repeating. About a student who comes to a Zen teacher and says, I want to learn Zen. And the master says, great, let's have a cup of tea before we start. All right? And he pours the tea into the cup, and he overflows, and it goes on the ground. And finally the student looks at him and says, can't you see nothing else is going to go in? The cup is full. And the teacher says to the student, don't you see that's how you've come to me? You've come to me wanting to learn Zen, but your cup is full. Go empty your cup a little bit and then come back, and maybe I can help you learn Zen. I never realized how scared I was of emptiness. I never realized how vulnerable and alone that place feels. because we live in a world where everybody is so full of themselves. We live in a world where people, we were talking about this in the green room before. I'm not going to mention what it was we were talking about, right? But we were talking about it before, of how just a little bit of praise makes us feel like we're more than, we feel so full of ourselves. And we're doing so much to help the world. What I found in my world is every time I get full, something wants to empty me. Not because it doesn't like me, not because it's punishing me, not because it hates me, but because what it wants to give me is so much more than I have in my cup. And it can never do that as long as my cup is full. So what all this has happened for me to show me, I believe, is the world is not a world of conflict. The world is a benevolent, kind, loving world that's just doing its job. It has to empty out what's there so it can fill it with what's supposed to be there. With something way better for us than we could ever imagine. It's part of what's driving me to do the next phase of my life, which is to go around the country first and then the world if I can do it.
May 1, 2020.
May 1, 2020. To just start to listen to people. Nobody listens anymore. Not nobody. I can't say no. There's no 100%. But all too often we talk without listening. All too often we're so full of our own experience that we don't have space to let somebody else's experience come in. My dream is to go around the globe and film the voices of the people that don't ever feel heard. And I thought initially that was the homeless and the downtrodden. But darn, if I wasn't sitting here in my chair 3 days ago and my wife said to me, "Danny, you're not listening to a word I'm saying." She felt unheard. Darn if it didn't happen with my kids coming home from school and my son saying to me, I'm a round peg and the school's trying to put me in a square hole. They don't know what to do with me. They don't know how to deal with me. He doesn't feel heard. Darn if it doesn't happen with every CEO that I work with that says to me, it's lonely at the top because I can't tell people what I actually believe. They won't understand me. They won't be able to do it. Darn if it doesn't happen with every employee in every company that says to me, "Danny, there's not an environment of trust here. We can't say anything." So in a world that we live in where nobody can say what they actually feel, how do we have any connection? Where nobody listens to another person, how do we actually have any intimacy? How do we have any sharing? How do we have the ability to come together? We need to realize that giving people the space that they'll tell us what they want to say if we'd only just take the time to listen.
Thank you. There's an expression. I'm going to kind of weave us around here. There's an expression I use since I got my trifecta in recent years. More than a few years ago now, thankfully. But it is the expression, kind, gentle, easy, good. Universe, I am listening. I am open. I don't pretend to have the answers. Please give the answers to me, though, because I'm listening so carefully. Kind, gentle, easy, good. I don't believe I need the 2x4 anymore. I will listen. But that brings us to almost the crux of what we're talking about so far here today, is how do we actually pour out enough of the cup, not just to listen to universe, but to really listen to ourselves.
So I would even go a step further to say, what's the difference between the universe and ourselves?
Thank you.
I mean, okay, because we make so many distinctions and so many differences. And one of the things that the mosaic has shown me, or is trying to show me, is that everything's connected. The lie has become so easy to believe, we call it the truth. And the truth has become so hard to believe, we call it a lie. The truth is we are all interconnected with each other. We are all a part of each other. We are an energy that exists. What you are exhaling right now, I'm inhaling 2 seconds later. And it doesn't matter that you're in Aspen and I'm in San Diego, because energy moves in currents that are way beyond what we know. But we believe that you're this handsome man in Aspen and I'm this big old guy in California, and we're different. But we're not different. And so we have people that spend their whole lives looking at those differences and saying, I've got to be more than you, so I'm going to put you down. I'm going to call you the little guy, and I'm going to be the big guy. I'm going to do what I need to do to make you honor and respect me, until we realize that we are all each other. A friend of mine said something to me, and I just went, whoa. She said, if you would understand as you go out on your trip that everything that you experience is a reflection of you talking to you about you. I said it on another podcast that I was on. He said to me, yeah, that's right. The world isn't a world, it's a mirror. So however one of those sentences makes sense to you, if it does, when we learn to listen, everything in the world is speaking to us. When I was writing the mosaic, it took me 3 years to write it. I thought it was going to take 3 weeks. It's my story, for God's sake. It should have been pretty easy. Every time I would write, something would be taken from me. What I saw was good was not good. I would wake up in the morning, the file would be corrupted. It went on for 2.5 years. You think I'm a smart guy, I would ask what's going on, but it's a book that I'm writing. What do you mean what's going on? It's characters that I made up based on characters that are real to me. But finally I said to the characters, what are you doing? And they said, we don't want to say what you're saying to us. We don't want to say what you're telling us to say. Just listen to what we're saying to you. Write what we say. When I did that, it was done in a month and a half.
In our everyday lives, how do we pour out that cup so we can hear?
We have to start to do the things we don't want to do. Because when we stay where we are, it's comfortable. I know for me, the reason I'll eat carbs is because they give me comfort. I spend all my day helping other people, so I just want to sit back at some point and just have comfort, immediate comfort. And so I eat a piece of pizza and I feel comfortable until the next morning when I wake up and I don't feel comfortable because it doesn't sit well in my body. Until I decide that I want to feel comfortable in the long term and have a little discomfort in the short term. There's that stupid saying that's not stupid, right? That the magic doesn't happen within our comfort zone. And so part of the reason, and I'm just realizing this, and I hope this doesn't sound arrogant or pompous or anything like that. I always believed that everything that I needed was inside me, and I didn't need anybody to help me get through this. But I realized I have a brilliant mind. And I talk myself into believing that I'm making changes in my life that I'm not really making because I'm moving closer to the changes. I can't tell you how many people say to me, if you would have seen me a year ago, I've made such big progress. But people don't come to me and hire me for the progress they've already made. Because the 80% that they've given up, as hard as that's been, is nothing compared to the 20% they're still holding on to, because they had the opportunity to give up that 20% already, but they haven't. And the closer you get to 100%, when you get to 95%, that 5% that you choose to hold on to is who you really define yourself as. Getting rid of that 5% is so friggin' hard, and it's hard to do it on your own. You need to find somebody, and this is the work that I do. I sit with people and I relentlessly hold the mirror up to them. Just like you do, I'm sure. And I say to them, you've managed to run away long enough. You've hired me to keep you vigilant. Everything is about awareness. Become aware of where you're running and why you're running. Become aware of where you're staying and why you're staying. Become aware of how scared we are, how scared I am to take the next step. I'm petrified to go on this trip because I have no idea what's going to happen.
For people who can't, or it's not the ideal time to put themselves out of the road, let's say. You have a character in here who is the blind woman. And to me, she sees more clearly than just about any of us.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, what you are looking for is already here. It is right in front of you, but you cannot see it.
Yeah.
How do we begin to see?
This has been probably the hardest thing for me in my life. So much so that I made up a story about it that said I just don't even know how to do it. It's the simple process of letting go. And I said, I don't know how to let go. And a friend of mine said, that's crazy. Pick up a pencil. And I picked up a pencil. He said, let go of the pencil. And I dropped the pencil. And he said, so you don't, of course you know how to let go. Just let go. For me, when I realized, and it's only come, honestly, this book continues to pick away at me, empty me out. And I'm doing some work now with a woman who's coaching me, who's really helping me to let go. Because when I let go, everything we want is right in front of us. But I can tell you from my experience, I've blocked the passageway of that getting into me by all the things that I am holding in my possession. When I let go of that, when I have the courage to sit in the exquisiteness of emptiness, it takes a lot of courage to do it. That's when a fresh new energy can come into me. And that fresh new energy brings me an entirely new world that I never saw before. Clients come to me. People stand up and say, I'll put you in my house. Offers come to me from strangers that I never even knew. Love is shown to me from people that I pass on the street. There is so much this world wants to give us. Let me make it about me. Because I don't know you or what the world wants to do for you, and I'm certainly not trying to teach. What I found is the more I let go, the more the world gives me more. And what it gives me is beyond anything that I could ever conceive would be what would be given to me. It is a beautiful space to occupy. And it's scary as hell, because as soon as I realize that that's the world I live in, I doubt it again. That gap between the demand and the reception of it is never-ending gap for me, until it one day will end, hopefully, and I won't have the gap. But the gap is still here. I'm 65 years old almost. And every time I get it, I doubt that it's going to happen the next time. Like, yeah, it's working, but will it continue to work? Yeah, now I got all these clients and I'm making a lot of money, but will they stay with me, right? Like, what happens next month? Are they going to drop out because they're getting great results, so maybe they don't need me anymore, right? I have a love of my life. Will they continue to love me? What is that gap? Just let go of it. Just let it, just as soon as it comes, just say, I let go of you. Because I want this fresh new energy to continue to come into me. And that fresh new energy continues to fill me. And then we let go of that. So a fresh new energy. I've been saying to people that I'm working with lately, this beautiful image that came to me. that the ceiling that we think holds us into the room that we're in is actually the floor that we'll be standing on very shortly.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I call it the bar. And I say that's
Yeah.
now baseline.
Yeah. And it'll keep happening. The more we let this the more we empty and let this fresh energy in, the more it's like an elevator that takes us from ceiling to floor, to ceiling to floor, to ceiling to floor. And the experience of being confined by something now that you're standing on is miraculous. That's the heaven I always sought. That change of perception. That ability to sit with a homeless man who said to me, when I asked him what it would take to change the world, he said, if people would only sit 10 minutes with someone they don't know and ask them how they're doing, and then just listen to what they say. And I said to him, Corey, why is that so important to you? And he said, funny you should ask. Because it happened to me on the day that I was going to commit suicide. Wow. Because nobody cared about me. Nobody was interested. People would pass me on the street and they would think I was less than an animal. They would scorn me and yell at me and say, get a job, you lazy son of a blah, 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 blah. And I thought, this is why do this? I'm going to just end my life. And one guy sat on my cardboard box next to me. Yeah. And he said, how are you doing? And he stayed with me for 10 minutes. I went home that night and I said, I can't commit suicide. Someone actually cares about me. He might show up tomorrow. And I want to tell him I'm doing better because of him. What would our world look like if we took 10 minutes to just listen to another human being? That's why I'm going on this trip.
Woohoo! Couple last questions, then we'll wind down and do a meditation here. I look at life as always going around in circles, but always, when we think we're back at the beginning point, we're never. We're always going up the mountain. Awareness is always expanding. Consciousness is always expanding. So bringing us back full circle to the beginning of the journey today. You left one future, you left another future. Left is even a strange word, but you walked on from one possibility, you walked on from another, you walked on from another. You say in the book, most people do not see that they are very different from the stories, those are each stories, that they tell themselves. How do we let go of the stories, or as you call this in the book, the stories that are destroying us, to set ourselves free?
Beautiful. You're good at what you do. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you, Daniel.
I have a very simple equation that the Mosaic showed me. I don't think it invented it. I think it's been around for a long time, but I somehow learned it in the process of sitting with the space between the words in the Mosaic. Mm-hmm. Our thoughts become our words. Our words create our stories, and our stories make up our life. When we look at any portion of that equation, if there's something that doesn't feel good to me about the life that I'm living, I have to go back and say, what are the stories that I'm telling? How would I reconstruct those stories? If I don't know how to do it, what are the words that I'm using? Because the words are what makes up the stories. If I can't figure out which words I'm using, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking? Because my thoughts are creating those words that are creating those stories that are creating my life. We just have to retrofit it back. And the moment we change anything, the moment we change our stories, our thoughts will change. The moment we change our words, our life will change. If we change any part of the equation, every part of the equation changes, because it is just that simple.
Woohoo! Last but not least, maybe maybe last but not least, I'm thinking of when I coach and I always say, one last thing. I'm Columbo here
Right.
for
Yeah, I
sure.
love it. I love it.
Going back, bringing the last part around to the circle, to the flower girl, to what we were talking about. I thank you, can't thank you enough for sharing early on. What's the importance of trusting our inner voice? How do we do it, or how have you done it? And were you trusting it at the time?
My inner voice at that point was so loud that it made havoc of every other voice that I was saying. So, yes, I was, but it didn't turn out the way I thought it would. But it still turned out the way it needed to turn out for me to become the person that I am today as a result of it. I realized I have a unique gift that I didn't realize I had because I thought everybody had it because it was so natural to me. When I sit with people, I'm literally able to hear what their soul is saying. And the reason why I can hear what their soul is saying is because I don't have any of the noise that they have within inside them, or that I have within me around my own soul speaking. I have so many stop gaps, and so no, I can't do that. No, it's not possible. This isn't possible. I just listen to the soul and I say it back to them, and they go, I can't believe you said that. That's what I feel. Yeah. And I said, I know, because that's what you told me. So the way to hear our voice and you can go to somebody else who can hear your voice and tell it to you, but that's sort of like cheating a little bit.
And you're not really cultivating something out on the road.
You're not really cultivating.
You're not going to go put a dime, old school, throw a dime or a quarter in and call up inner voice, please.
Yeah. So the truth is so simple. It's just so easy. As long as we are speaking and have so much noise, filling ourselves up with noise, that voice is really hard to hear, because the voice for me, the voice of my intuition never yells at me. It doesn't scream. It's quiet. It says, you choose. You want to hear it? It's here for you. You don't want to hear it? Keep talking. But if we want to listen, we have to stop talking. If we really want to have a conversation with somebody and they say something to us and we're talking in our head about what are we going to say next, we're not really listening. Basic 101. To listen, we have to be quiet. To hear our own voice, we have to be quiet. Whether that's through meditation, that's through running, that's through cycling, that's through dancing, that's through beating a drum. I don't care what you feel you have to do. Do that which makes you quiet. The voice of silence is thundering if you give it a chance.
I want to give you the biggest hug.
I receive it. I receive it and accept it and give it back, brother.
I see you and I see me, and I have no other way to describe it. I see you, I hear you, I meet you with love. It's the best I can say.
Thank you. Mutual. Mirror. Like the mirror maker would say, mirror.
Would you have any last words of wisdom you want to share with people?
The most exquisite moment in my life was the moment that I stilled all the noise that lives inside me, and for the first time heard the voice of my soul. And I can't wait for people to share that voice with me. I hope you'll write me. I hope you'll correspond with me. I hope you'll tell me that you've been doing it and hearing it for years, or that you just heard it for the first time today. When you hear that voice, it will intoxicate you to the point that no other voice will want to be heard. We live in a pandemic time where people don't know themselves. Listen to that voice. Know yourself. I promise you, it'll be the most exquisite moment you've ever experienced.
So would you mind leading us in whatever you feel called to today?
Sure. Let's take a moment and just close your eyes if you can. One of the most powerful things that we have at our disposal that doesn't cost a cent to do is the power of our breath. We can go for months without food. We can go for days without water. But we can only go moments without our breath. Our breath is what gives us life. And the way we breathe defines the life that we have. Become aware of your breath. Become aware of your breathing pattern. As you become aware of it, your breath will slow down. But over the course of the day, check in with your breath. When we are breathing shallow inhalations and shallow exhalations, there's a very, very, very good chance we're living on the perimeter of our life. We're living, I'm not going to say a shallow existence, but we're not allowing ourselves to experience the depth of a moment. Shallow breath is associated with restlessness. Is restless the way you want to live your life? There's some people that have a deep inhalation and a shallow exhalation. Those people take in the world and give very little back to it. There are good parts of that too, that you just inhale life into yourself and allow it allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to receive all from life. But then why not give it all back? Do you want to live a life where you are taking from the world but not giving much back? There are others amongst us that have a very shallow inhalation. They don't take much in, but they give a big, long exhalation. These are the people that give and give and give and give. But they have a hard time receiving. Is this the world you want to live in? Sounds good. To be a giver is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But what prevents you from receiving? There are other people who choose to have a big, deep, full inhalation and a big, deep, full exhalation. They're open to receiving everything the world has to give them. And they give everything that they have back to the world. Does that sound attractive to you? Let's take a few deep breaths now. I won't guide you because our breathing patterns will be different. What's deep for you might be deeper for me than I can go, or vice versa. But just take a few deep breaths now on your own. Allow everything in the world to enter you. Receive. Open up, be vulnerable. And then allow everything inside of you, with no hesitation, with no fear. Just trust that you can give yourself completely to this world. Know that you won't be hurt. Open up and receive. Trust and give. The air we breathe gives us life. The way we breathe defines the quality of the life we have. What life do you want for yourself? The choice is yours. Give so much that you empty yourself every breath that you exhale, so that you can fill yourself with a fresh new energy on every inhalation. You don't have to believe me. Try taking 10 deep inhalations and 10 deep exhalations, and notice how you feel after doing so. I want to thank you for this opportunity to spend time with you. You've given me your most valuable asset, time on this planet. And I don't take that time lightly. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you. If there's anything that I can do to be of service to you, please let me know. Remember to listen. 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 Oh, peace. Amen.
Oh my God, my brother, this was so beautiful.
It was my honor, and thank you for the privilege of being with you. I hope this will be the beginning of our conversations, not the end.
Oh, I guarantee it. Absolutely. I got to crank it up for the finish, but this is the start of something special. And for those who are listening in, there was the most humble, and I mean that in a beautiful way, humble little email that came in that, had I been snoozing and not awake, would have completely just blasted by me, and yet grabbed me and pulled me in. And before I know it, I'm writing, I don't know why I'm personally writing you back.
But with all due respect, that's the beauty of energy. When we're open to it, we don't need to shout. We just need to show up. And so thank you for being so open and so responsive and so kind and so generous. You really touched me. I appreciate it.
So, Daniel, we could just continue and continue. I'm like a kid in a candy store. Where can people go to find your beautiful, 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 that was a 3 beautiful if you didn't catch that, book, The Mosaic, and to find out more?
Thank you so much. The book is available on Amazon. That's the easiest way to get it. That's, it's available wherever people are by going to Amazon and just going it. You would go to The Mosaic, Daniel Levin, you'll see it. To find out more about me, you can go to my website, danielbrucelevin.com, or you can go to my other website, which is themosaiconline.com. And on themosaiconline.com, you'll see a lot more about the types of things that I'm doing, not only the trip, but this idea of a storm that's too complicated for us to get into now. But I invite you to go and look at the tab that says the storm on the Mosaic Online to see how we want to change the way we deal with finding solutions in the world today.
Beautiful, beautiful. And do you have an Instagram or a Facebook or any place else that you'd like to send people?
Yes, all of it will be right there on those things. And so if you go to any of those pages, you'll see links. You'll see little buttons that say, go to his Instagram, go to his Facebook, go to his, and they're all right there. So the easiest thing to do is that.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get the Mosaic, and begin seeing your life more clearly today and shine bright. Woohoo!
Thank you so much, brother.
Sometimes you have an interview that's so beautiful, you almost don't know what to say. Oh my God, was that interview with Daniel Bruce Levin one of those? Please leave your comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Ask your questions to Daniel. Ask your questions to myself. I am just going to sit and marinate in this interview, I guess just for a little bit because I've got CJ Luke coming up next. But wow, wow, wow. What a special way to look at the world. What a special way to wake up and look at your life. Be sure to check out our other shows here, subscribe below, and make sure to give this a thumbs up. Actually, 2 thumbs up, 10 thumbs up. How many thumbs up can we give it? Leave your comments. Love you guys so, so much. Shine bright. Woohoo! Oh my God.